Open up the door for me. Thanks.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bruce Gordon with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Thank you for being here with us today, and for those of you that are online around the state of Minnesota, thank you. We were actually planning on being at Como Park today to demonstrate how to be safe around bonfires and campfires and the like, but because of the wind, that would have been very unsafe today. So we've decided to change our location for that reason. You're going to hear from several speakers today, and we also have the St. Paul Fire Department educators on hand that can provide some information or answer your questions about safety when starting an outdoor fire. As Minnesotans, we want to enjoy our short summers as much as we possibly can. That includes some traditions, and some of those traditions include being around an open fire, and we want to be safe and do the right things. And if you just take some basic and simple strategies, some basic steps, you can prevent a fun time becoming a very tragic time. Our three speakers today, you're going to hear from State Fire Marshal Bruce West, Dr. William Mohr, spelled M-O-H-R, a burn surgeon and co-director of the Burn Center at Regents Hospital. And you're also going to hear from Jessica Patterson, P-A-T-T-E-R-S-O-N. She is a burn survivor whose life changed in an instant when someone dumped gasoline on an open fire. Let's start with Bruce West from the State Fire Marshal's office.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm Bruce West. I'm the State Fire Marshal. Thanks everybody for being here today. We are going to talk a little bit about campfires, what I like to say recreational fires. During my 37 years in the fire service, unfortunately I've seen many burn injuries and even a fire death because of a campfire. Between 2005 and 2014, there were 9 fire deaths in the state of Minnesota related to campfires and or bonfires. And what I want to do today is provide you some basic tips to make sure not only Memorial Day, but the entire summer is going to be safe, like Bruce said, so it doesn't turn from a fun time to a tragic time. We do not want that. One of the things you want to use is paper, wood kindling to start campfires. Never, ever use flammable liquids like gasoline, lighter fluid. I have a couple things here today that you probably will see in a camping supply company. Is a fire stick. There's many different styles, but this fire stick is a good fire starter. It's a good prep. Looks something like this. Another thing that's very simple that you could do at home is take your toilet paper roll, and I know this is going to sound a little interesting, but a toilet paper roll, shred some paper in that and put it in the toilet paper roll, put that in the center of the campfire, light that with a light stick, not, don't get too close, try to stay a little bit away, but that shredded paper inside that toilet paper roll works great. And you'll see some variations of that in some of the camping stores also. One of the things you want to make sure you do is keep the children away from recreational fires. As we know, kids are full of energy. They're going to be running around and at times pushing each other. Sometimes they're a little clumsy. And what we don't want is that bad combination to occur where one of them is going to fall into a campfire. All it takes is for a split second for a child and they're having a fun time, playing tag, whatever it is, and they're around the campfire. Somebody falls into that and we've got disasters going to strike. Only light campfires that are 25 feet from a building or a structure. And we want to make sure, if you look at the DNR website, they have a very good website that we link to at the State Fire Marshal Division on safety around campfires. And they recommend minimum of 6 feet from any type of combustible material. A recreational fire ring, when you go to a campground, even at your cabins, your RV parks, are going to have some sort of a fire ring. And the fire ring should be 3 feet. Could be made of rocks, could be earth, it could be a tire ring, but that is your 3-foot fire ring. There's a reason for that fire ring. It's to keep the fire inside the ring, not outside that 3-foot ring. Day like today, as Bruce said, with 30, 40 mile an hour winds out there, and we're going to get those sudden bursts, all of a sudden some of those embers could go outside that fire ring. catch some dry needles, some dry leaves, and off it goes. Always have a responsible adult around the campfire. So when the children are playing, warn them, keep them away from the campfire. A couple other things you want to think about is have a garden hose. If you're at your home, you're at a cabin, you've got that garden hose available, string that out, lay it close by. So if all of a sudden a gust of wind comes and a couple of embers go out, start a little bit of a fire, you've got that garden hose quickly, or a bucket of water. Very simple just to use a bucket of water. And if you have that availability of a fire extinguisher, you can also use a fire extinguisher. At the end of the evening, take that bucket of water, pour it into the campfire, so when you go to bed, and at 2 in the morning when a front comes through, like happened yesterday, you go from a nice quiet day to 40-mile-an-hour winds. You don't have the embers that are now blowing around your area. Always check with DNR on their website for burning restrictions. Sometimes there can be restrictions, and sometimes there can be burning bans. And DNR will always have an update on the area that you're camping or where your cabin is when it comes to burning restrictions. Finally, I can't emphasize enough that bucket of water nearby during a campfire, but also at the end of the evening when it's time to turn in for the evening, take that bucket of water and dump it into the embers and stir it a little bit and make sure that campfire is cold. We want everybody to have a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial start of the summer. A few of these tips that I came today with you, keep those in mind so we have a nice, safe time around your recreational fires. Next, we have Dr. Bill Moore from Regions Hospital.
Hi, I was asked to give an overview of the types of injuries that we see in the burn center each year. About 50 people a year are injured and come to our center. About half of those are injured badly enough that they require hospital admission. Of those, more than a third will end up needing a surgical procedure, a skin grafting procedure, or some other type of operation. The vast majority are adults. 80% of those are caused by flame mechanism. The typical way that happens is someone is lighting or trying to augment the campfire, bonfire, with an accelerant, typically gasoline. Now, not always the person who is using the accelerant is the person who's injured. So bystanders are injured in this mechanism. About 1 out of 20 people for adults, will fall into the bonfire, causing contact burns. The majority of adult burns are males. And about 2/3 of them are intoxicated or have other types of drugs on board. So again, it's not just an adult next to the campfire, it's a responsible adult. Unfortunately, 25% of our injuries are in kids, typically less than 7 years of age. Now, for them, overwhelmingly, it's a contact burn. They fall into the fire pit, they walk through it. The prevention strategies do work. We reported several years ago that 85% of the kids who are injured are now injured the day following the fire, not during the time of the fire. So what that means is that the people who think that letting the fire burn out, or even if they try and smother it with sand, they think that's an effective way of doing it. But 12 hours later, those coals are still at 500 degrees Fahrenheit. That is enough to cause a 3rd-degree burn, as little Timmy and Susie are running around the site of all the activity the night before, tripping or running through the campfire. Now, of those people who need operations, especially with the kids, the need for a revision operation as they grow and mature and their hand size gets bigger becomes more frequent. About 1/4 to 1/2 of all children need more operations, as they grow and go through their adolescence. Half of all the burns are involving hands and feet, so these are functionally very important injuries, especially in kids. This paints sort of a broad background of the types of injuries we see. But more importantly, we're going to hear today about how this injury mechanism affects individuals and their life. And to that, I will introduce Jessica Patterson, a burn survivor, to tell you her story.
Hello. On November 30th, 2009, I was in my backyard with my friend, and we were just burning some cardboard boxes, and we ended up using gasoline to hurry up the process before we went to a movie. And in the time span of maybe 30 minutes, I was being rushed to the hospital by helicopter, and if it wasn't for the helicopter, I probably wouldn't be standing here today with talking to you guys. I spent a month and a half in the hospital, which is very rare for someone with my degree of burns. I sustained third-degree burns to my face, my neck, and my right arm. There's been people in the hospital months before that their skin grafts did not take, and they have been in there for like months on time. I was lucky enough to be out of there in that short amount of time, and since then I've been living in Bemidji, Minnesota, going to school, working, living my everyday life. And I mean, my burns are a blessing and a curse. You get asked constantly what happened, how it happened, and you just get the looks every single day. And it's all because gas and fire just does not mix, and it's never a good idea. Thanks.
Thank you. Time for some questions.
Jessica, could you just tell us basically, you said that you were burning some cardboard boxes and going to go to a movie. How much gasoline was thrown on the fire that blew back and injured you?
Him at the time, he just took the gas can and he just kind of like threw it on there. So I'm not positive at how much was on there, and I was standing about 3 to 4 feet away from the fire, and it had mushroomed up, and basically it just caught my hair and my sweatshirt on fire, and from then on, yeah.
The pain of it.
It was, I can say I didn't feel a lot of pain at first because I was in complete shock at what was happening. The shock overwhelmed me. All I could do was kind of cry, and from that point on, it's more after the fact of being in a coma and then waking up and feeling the pain from just laying in bed for 14 days. That's more what got to me.
Fire Marshal West, if we could ask you a couple quick questions about, I know we talk a lot about gasoline, but gasoline isn't the only danger around a backyard fire. People throw all kinds of things. I think we've had injuries where people have been hit by exploding cans. Can you talk about that a little bit?
There have been, throwing gasoline, throwing white gas, things like that. Or you get the end of the white gas can and somebody's going to throw it in there to watch it melt, whatever it is. But or throwing firecrackers into a campfire. I mean, people have been injured that way. I'm sure Dr. Moore can talk about that also. But, the campfire, your recreational fire is exactly that. It's just for wood, and so you start off with your kindling, have your wood campfire. It's not for discarding of garbage. It's not for discarding of different things. So, you throw something in there and it could, a paint can. I mean, just you take a small little aerosol can, paint can, and they're going to throw it in there, and all of a sudden, boom, it's going to explode, because some people think, hey, it's kind of cool to watch that or hear it explode. But the shrapnel that could come from that can is definitely something that people could get hurt from.